Didi na na na.
Welcome to day 4 of our Abertoir coverage. Yesterday, I don't even know what's night and day anymore. Yesterday started off with a screening of The Silent Scream, an episode from Hammer House Horror.
Yeah.
You've not seen it before?
No, I haven't. Well, we talked in the video yesterday how you said that it wasn't a persona of Peter Cushing you were very fond of, perhaps.
Yeah.
And after watching it, I found his performance was very sinister, very creepy, but excellent as usual.
Yeah.
And it was like seeing a different side to him in terms of performance. The episode itself was very intense, suspenseful, and it was just so clever, and it got you on a level. It didn't need to include gore or anything like that. It was just playing on just human fears and this idea of claustrophobia, and I thought it was very, very good. I loved it, and for a 15-minute episode, it packed in so much. It was very effective.
Yeah, they are like mini movies though, those episodes.
Yeah.
So they kind of get everything done in a short time, but it doesn't diminish them.
Yeah.
Then we have
Chantilly.
Yes, we did indeed. Chantilly is the first horror film out of Laos, and you were saying that there are certain restrictions placed on what they can and can't do.
Yeah, for example, in their country, they do not allow for a man and woman to kiss on screen, and one reason behind that is because the people there, they don't believe that it's fair on putting the actors through that. So that's quite an interesting one. There's quite a lot of filming restrictions with Chantilly. It was the first horror film they'd ever done in their country. So there had to be a lot of respectful kind of stuff done.
Yeah, and also it's the first film in Laos directed by a woman as well, so that's quite special that it's a female directed horror and it's the first of its kind. It was nice, I thought. It was a little long, maybe, but for a first feature, that's.
I think it
kind of
was,
to expect it. I enjoyed it more than Across the River.
Oh, definitely.
And I think it's because you had that kind of dialogue.
And there was connection there with the main characters. You felt for Chantilly, for her father. It was the plot was focused on Chantilly never had her mother. Her mother passed away allegedly in childbirth, but she's having memories of her mother being there, and then she begins to see the alleged spirit of her mother. And it was quite haunting, but it was done in a very subtle way. There was no major jump scares. It wasn't doing anything blank or anything like that. It was very, very subtle but very effective.
It reminded me of a cross between The Ring, maybe, and the newer version of Whistle and I'll Come to You, the one with John Hurt. There's a scene in that that's very similar to that, but it's a great creepy scene, so you don't mind.
Yeah, but it was interesting how you got this sort of cultural perspective from it, and I really liked that.
Yeah, it's
really
great.
Nice.
So what was it then?
It was Kiss of the Damned followed
from
that, which was sort of a Euro sleaze vampire film starring Milo Ventimiglia. If you've seen Heroes or Gilmore Girls or something, you'll be aware who he is. It's very, very nice looking. Anyway, he was in that movie, and it was basically what I liked about that was the fact that it subverted itself a bit from the usual vampire stuff. It had the girl transform the body. But it was ultimately a vampire love story, and Milo's character and the female character, they get together. They're trying to be sort of good vampires, not feeding on humans too much. Just sort of feeding on animals more than anything.
Yeah, there's sort of this great sort of bourgeoisie sort of surrounded, there's one vampire who's doing a one-woman show, and they're all exceptionally middle class.
Yes.
Apart from the troublemaking sister.
Yeah, that's when
in.
the sort of protagonist comes into it. The female character has this younger sister who's a bit more rebellious, and she sort of embraces vampirism a lot more for what it really is. Like, she doesn't restrain herself. It causes a lot of conflict, and you kind of see where the plot's going. The plot is kind of predictable, but it's still fun to watch. I really did enjoy it.
Some of the dialogue and delivery is the best I've heard. Like, just in terms of it, because when you first start watching it, you're like, oh, this is going to be bad. And then you start realising that it's got its tongue firmly in its cheek, and it's doing all these things, it's throwing in all these ridiculous lines, because it knows what it's doing. It knows it needs to be that kind of ridiculous dialogue and stilted delivery and things like that.
Oh, you can forgive it for that. It's just, totally just a cheesy horror film, basically, and I just thought it was great.
It was good fun, and that's what's good sometimes. So then we
had a Spanish film called Ghost Graduation.
Oh yes, we did indeed, yes. Sorry. And that was cute.
I loved that. It was basically kind of like a John Hughes Breakfast Club type story, and a little bit like Ghost from Patrick Swayze. It had elements of that in it. It was about this young man who can communicate with spirits, and it's obviously held him back a lot in life because people think he's crazy, and he becomes a school teacher, but he's fired from a lot of his jobs because of his basically, his special gift. And then he ends up going to a school that's having a lot of problems, a lot of failings, and he stumbles on these 5 ghosts, wasn't it? Five spirits.
It's so much the Breakfast Club. There's even a scene in it with the dance from that. But any film that begins with a mass dance to Wakefield Saturday Night, I'm on board with it straight away.
As soon as that began,
you've got to go very wrong to go downhill from that.
And of course, it had Bonnie Tyler's Total Eclipse of the Heart, which
is
very
another
good choice. Total cheese, but
some good soundtracks going on this year.
Definitely.
Kiss of the Damned had a wonderful soundtrack.
It did,
and so did Across the River, actually. Even though I didn't really like a lot of the film,
the score was good.
It's the year of the soundtrack, I think.
I think so, and but basically, back to Ghost Graduation, he stumbles on these 5 former school pupils that were killed in a fire back in 1986, and of course their spirits have remained in the abandoned library where they died. So he wants to help the spirits cross over, so his view on it is they need to graduate, and he's going to help them do that.
Yeah, it was kind of like more of a light-hearted look at sort of ghosts having unfinished business there, which is nice. I mean, it was a nice little film. Put everyone in a really good mood before the pub quiz. It scored really well in the audience rating as well. I think it's got the highest so far.
Yes,
and I think things are going to struggle to beat that.
I think it was a surprising effort because Gaz said at the start that he was unsure about it when he first saw the marketing for it, and I had a look at that myself last night, and the actual poster of it does look like an American Pie knockoff sequel, the way it's marketed. It doesn't look like a horror film entirely. Just if you didn't know what it was, it's it would mislead you, but it's one of those that was surprisingly funny. I mean, it was just funny. It was just throwback to sort of the 1980s, early 90s type nostalgia, and I think a lot of people could get a lot from it. And it's definitely, I would go as far as saying at the moment my favourite film of the festival.
Comedy, I find, always goes down really well at Abertoir. The horror comedies, they usually sort of take over, like Sightseers one last year.
Oh, definitely.
There is usually sort of an emphasis on the comedy of things then. The pub quiz, we didn't place.
No.
So we didn't win, but we also didn't lose. I just want to point that out.
Our team name was the Disco Pats. We thought it was very apt to kind of fit in with this year's festival.
Without killing.
Yeah, I think we did very well. I mean, what our mindset was we weren't going to leave anything blank. If we didn't know something, or we thought it could be something, we'd just write it down.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun, and it was nice because they threw in an American Mary song in there, especially for us.
Yeah, I think it's because I complained actively about the music, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah, openly sobbed about it.
And that was a bit unexpected because I didn't think they were going to go for anything too recent, but that was
nice. But it was good. I don't know entirely what we scored, but we didn't lose.
We didn't
Most
lose,
importantly, we didn't lose.
I think we did all right. What we could do. There was also a round that was called Nightmare on Memory Street, and we had to list every single Nightmare on Elm Street sequel that full title, so there my pen was going.
Yeah, like
I know
slashes, like here's your lady.
Yeah. I wouldn't say I'm a specialist in it, but I try. I've got the guilty pleasure. But also, we did have a wonderful talk by Peter Hutchings.
Yes. It talks like that, wonderful, because you get the real sort of emotion behind why people like horror and are attracted to certain figures in horror.
Yeah.
And Peter Cushing, I don't know, he always seems quite a sad figure, but as well such a gentleman, and like, yeah. It was lovely. It was genuinely lovely, and there was a nice sort of. There were personal anecdotes in there, and that makes it all the more interesting as well.
And you could tell that Peter Hutchings really, feels a lot and has a lot of respect for him. And
yeah.
I mean, it was a very emotional talk, and we saw like a few different clips of different performances he's done, and it showed how versatile an actor he was, which was fantastic.
That Tales of the Crypt thing breaks my heart.
Yeah.
It's horrible. So pub quiz, and then it was the last episode of Danger 5. Followed by, we got a preview of Series 2 as well.
How did you?
Yeah, because Series 2 is happening, only it's going to be set in the 80s. So we're moving onwards from the 60s to the 80s, so that should be interesting.
Yeah.
It was only a very short preview, so yeah, it'll be awesome. I hope they show it next year. I hope it's done and it goes out. And then after that was Hente Carmen, Forbidden Superhero, which I think it's the weirdest film I've ever seen in my life. I think that has to take the title.
Okay.
It's essentially about this guy who becomes a superhero, but he can only do so through perversions, which leads to him wearing women's knickers on his head and things like that. There are moments in it that are genuinely funny, but for me the joke kind of wore a little thin a little quickly.
Yeah, I think that's the problem with those sort of films. I think they're better off working as a short, because they sometimes do go over the top. And I will mention this, a few years ago I saw a film called Hell Driver, and the title didn't appear in the film until 45 minutes in, and then it was just halfway through and it just went ridiculous. And I think that is one way to describe those films. Years ago I used to really appreciate them, I used to have a laugh watching them, but now I've kind of gone off that sort of thing. It's just,
we'll be back in a bit to tell you what's going on today on day 4.